We are back. We're going to change the face of sport in this country. But we want to start with the children. In our department, we've put together 69 million, which is going to buy equipment for rural school children, for poor schools. It can't be that it's only the private schools. I will never fight the president. I love the GNU. You can't create jobs if you can't save jobs. So we've already saved 66 jobs in our department. Artists in this country, I want to make it clear, I'm not a minister of condolences. It's not easy to say it, but I'm going to say it. We are not here to bury artists. Artists need to live a life so good that they can bury themselves. It's insulting for a person who didn't have bread, but you put them in a casket of 50,000 rands. You look at Shaka Zulu, Henry Kele, one of the best actors this country's ever produced. Shaka Zulu come from when we were young. Till today, they still play Shaka, but he gets nothing. It can't be. I want to thank the president for appointing me as a Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture. People want me to talk bad about a man that has given me this job. I can never do that. You know, 22 years ago, 21 years ago, we went looking for a job. I think we got there and they said, no, they can't give me a job. I mean to work at the back of a truck. They didn't want to give me the job because they said I come from jail. And the manager, they said, no, you can't get a job, you come from jail. But the man that saw past my past and say, come here, I will give you this job. I must now fight that man. I am not mad in my head. I am not fighting. I will never fight the president. I will disagree with him, but I'm not here. I love the GNU. The Patriotic Alliance members are very happy with my inclusion in the GNU. How can I listen to other parties? All right, let me start with the work. The first thing and the most proudest thing I've done since becoming a minister and being part of was when we, together with the Department of Defense and Military Veterans, together with the office staff, you know, I am so fortunate that I've inherited the best staff you can get. You know, usually you'll just hear people talk a lot of stuff about people, but these people working at DSEC, I can tell you without a doubt, I don't even want to change one of them because they are diligent, they are so happy, I allow them to do their work, and we are working very nicely together. These people is the reason why I've done my proudest thing, which is number one, we have brought back the remains of our heroes. Duma Nokwe, Bezel February, Nemamu Posho, Tot Machikitsa, and all of them. They were in exile and they died in exile and they were buried in exile. We managed as a team, not as McKenzie or as Mabe, as a team, interdepartmental. My team, I must say, worked day and night, flew between Zambia. You know, Mr. Ndima and them, they worked to get that. So I want to say that's the first thing and the most proudest thing I've been involved in. The first crisis I got was when we started, which I'm going to talk about later, when we started talking to UFC and F1 and motorsport, FIA, we started just engagements. I got a media inquiry. That was my first crisis, was that, Mr. McKenzie, 12 countries are stuck for the FIBA basketball tournament in South Africa. The under-18 African Basketball Championship is in South Africa, and we are now being told it's being cancelled. I said, no, there's nothing being cancelled. I went back, I called SASCO, I called the Basketball Association, I called everybody to an urgent meeting within an hour after that call. And what I heard in that meeting was the worst news. They applied to host this tournament in South Africa. They didn't have sponsors, they didn't pay the venue, they didn't pay the hotel, they didn't pay for the buses, they paid for nothing. When I asked them, what you gonna do? They're like, nothing. We must cancel. I said, Excuse me, nothing. It can't be. This will be on South Africa's record. I called the team, I called the ADG, I called the whole team. We then made sure, I called the president of FIBA in Mozambique, myself. Luckily, I have met him in at the Olympics. And he said something I'll never forget. He was very angry when I called him, but he cooled off. He says, no, I said, please give us a last chance, we'll fix it. He says, I believe you because you're a good man. I said, why do you say I'm a good man? He says, you walked into the room, you walked past a lot of people, but you came straight to me in Paris and you greeted me. What he didn't know was everybody was speaking French. And I look at the black guy in the corner. I thought, that is my guy. And I can tell you, the people literally didn't sleep. And we managed to host the basketball FIBA tournament under 18. And we saved South Africa from headlines. That was my first crisis. The second crisis I experienced was the National School of the Arts was about to close down. They couldn't pay salaries. They ran out of money. I was then told, you know, sometimes people will tell you stuff. They said, Minister, you can't intervene because it doesn't fall under you. I said, this is the GNU. We do things differently. I'm going to intervene. I saw there's arts. The arts is calling my name. I went to the school. I saw they turn around. They have no turnaround strategy. But these people are good people that ran into money. They couldn't even pay the salaries. I immediately, with the powers vested in me as the minister, told the ADG, go through the processes. Let's save the jobs. Let's save the teachers not from leaving. We then gave the school 2 million rands so that they can pay salaries and they can pay water and lights. But when I walked out, I saw the hostels where the girls are staying. I wouldn't even let my dog sleep in those places. I then went back and I said to them, we have to fix the hostels. Because we've got an infrastructure grant. As I'm speaking to you, the hostels are being fixed and the girls are going to play in a proper place. The electricity problem we're also sorting out with the city of Johannesburg. The third crisis I got was, as you can see, I was just dealing with crises. The first, I said, I don't drink alcohol. Kenny Kunene, the deputy president of PE, says, every time I call you, you've got a crisis. You must just drink whiskey and then relax. So I'm very near getting that whiskey DP. The third crisis we got was the under-20, the youth championship in Peru. There was no money for the people to go to for the athletes to go to Peru. There was no money. They needed 4 million rands to go to Peru. I tell you, I pick up the phone, I called a few corporates, and you know, SuperSport was the first one that said we will help, and SuperSport helped. I called the ADG said we must help. The deputy minister said, no, we have to help. And we came together with SuperSport and the deputy minister. And I can tell you, true story, 10 minutes before they closed the flight, we paid. 10 minutes before they closed the flight. Now, if we didn't pay, let me tell you the repercussions of that. None of them would have gone to Peru. Today, the whole world knows we have the fastest under 20 100-meter athlete, the fastest under 20 200-meter athlete. We got gold medals, we got different medals, all because of the intervention of myself and the deputy minister. So, you know, the president will always speak about job creation. I was told at the office that some people said, Minister, we just come to say bye-bye because next week our contract is finishing. At 9 p.m. I said, yeah, let's meet at 11 p.m. at the office. She said, I'm going to enjoy making this call to the senior management. And when I got there, 11 o'clock, they were there. we sat from 11 until 2 a.m. trying to redirect and reprioritize funds so we can save the job of 66 people, because that's the priority of the GNU. I can stand before you today and say that we have managed to save a year until we get them permanent, but they've got a job until March 2025, but before March 2025, we shall meet again at 11 o'clock to make a plan. So you can't create jobs if you can't save jobs. So we've already saved 66 jobs in our department. Then this one is very hard. So artists in this country, I want to make it clear, I'm not a minister of condolences. I'm not a minister of funerals. I was told you didn't come to the funeral of Mapaputsi, but they omitted to say, I gave money for the funeral of Mapaputsi. But it can't be. We must be honest about this. It's not easy to say it, but I'm going to say it. We are not here to bury artists. Artists need to live a life so good that they can bury themselves. It's insulting for a person who didn't have bread, but you put them in a casket of 50,000 rands. It's not right. So we should not fight so that artists should be buried. We should fight for artists to live right. Because of my corporate history, I looked at why is it that our artists are poor? And I found three things. Number one, artists are poor because they get exploited by the record labels. Number two, artists are poor because the people representing artists can't even account for the money that we give them. Now, if you can't account for the money that we give you, how are you going to account to the people that you represent? If the Mureki, you can't give him the papers he wants. So there's a problem. We then called all of the artists. We realized that artists sometimes are good artists, but they may be, and creators, they're not good business people. You can't be everything in life. I'm a good business person, but I'm not a good artist. And sometimes they represent themselves in contracts and they get exploited. I then called a group of lawyers of the arts. I said, we are going to pay you as the government. You must look through every new contract every artist is going to sign in this country, so that you must make sure that artists don't get exploited. And artists will not pay for that service. The department will pay for that service. We then called the Boss Barat. In that Boss Barat that we called, we had frank discussions. We built up different sectors. And those sectors, we're going to pay for their officers. We're going to give them board fees. We are going to make sure that the sectors represent the artists. You can't have one person representing writers, filmmakers, crafters, choir music. Every sector should be represented by sectorial people, people that understand the problem. So we have a Boss Barat, and there's 72 sectors and subsector organizations, which I want to make clear, they will be getting money from us so that they can run and agitate for the better behavior from corporates, from government, and make sure artists get truly represented. And we cannot, as government, say we care about artists, but we don't want to recognize them as workers. I'm busy fighting so that artists, together with Minister Tao, so artists can be known as, they can be recognized as workers. The Copyright Amendment Bill, they want the president to sign it. But I went to go read it. I said, the president must not sign this thing in my mind. And I spoke to them. Because how do you sign something that says, and I speak from experience because I'm a writer. All the books I wrote, I own the copyright to it. If you want to use one sentence there, you're going to pay me. If you want to use a comma, you're going to pay me. And we are in big discussions with one of the biggest movie houses abroad. And we are negotiating on price because they talk to me, because I owe my work. In the Copyright Amendment Bill, there's a line that says free use. You can't have that, fair use. How do you have fair use? You don't go to McDonald's and say a burger is 80 rands, but I've got 40 rands, give me a burger because of fair use. So why must artists' music be used? So once we fix those little things, we will come back and we will sign it. And we will make sure that when you die, you look at Shaka Zulu, Henry Kele, one of the best actors this country's ever produced. Shaka Zulu come from when we were young. Till today, they still play Shaka, but he gets nothing. Artists will be paid to be on a show. I remember there's this show called, there was what do you call it, where they make fun of people. What was it called? No, they make fun where Kenny Kunene was on. It was called The Roast. When they came for the roast to Kenny Kunene, they gave him back and they said, "Are you mad?" Kenny said, "This is what I want." They said, "We can never pay you that because the other artists, if they see we pay you this much, they will also demand that from us." He says, "I'm not going." After a year, they came back to him. They're like, "All right, I'm paying you this amount." He says, "No, a year had passed. I must put more." And they paid him the money. So I just want to say that's what we want to do. And then, today I want to tell you, I want to thank the SABC and SuperSport, Multi-Choice. I want to thank them openly. Because the most important rugby game, I went to them. We fought. I think they were very irritated with me. I fought so that every South African can watch that rugby game. But I didn't only fight. I learned from SABC. I learned from SuperSport. I learned from them. And what I learned from them is that it is our responsibility of government to make sure that our people get to watch these games. We can't put it on them. We must put it on us. So what I've done, they were telling me all those things. I said, yeah, we will talk. Let's just show this one on Saturday, and I'll go back. And today I want us to give SABC and SuperSport a hand, because SuperSport graciously said, let South Africa watch the game. And we did watch the game. And I can assure you that we are doing our work in cabinet to make sure we make sport accessible. And we pay what companies demand for their product. So that is something that is ongoing. I also want to say, you know, for me, I'm going to make you one example while I talk about SuperSport. We've got something big, and you must encourage people to apply. We've joined forces with SuperSport, Athletics South Africa, South African School Athletics, and Department of Basic Education in launching the Track Plus Field School Athletics Series, starting in January next year. The School Athletics Series is open to all high schools throughout the country. The objective will be to crown the top athletics high schools in the country. Both boys and girls at under 15, 16, and 17 levels will participate. We want to go and find our athletes. And we have now joined forces with a corporate company that will help us. So the children must now get re-enter sports. And it's not just talk. We have signed an agreement with the Department of Basic Education. Sport, arts, and culture must get back to our school. Most of us here that's over the age of 40. Don't need to put up your hand. Most of us here, you have had school sport. I was a top athlete myself, believe it or not. And I was discovered at the school. So we've got the DSTV School Netball Challenge. We've got all these exciting things to get our children away from the street. I always say a kid in sport is a kid out of court. That is our motto. You know, that's going to be the Let's Play Centers of Excellence. We are back. We're going to change the face of sport in this country. But we want to start with the children. That's why we have the MOU. In our department, we've put together 69 million, which is going to buy equipment for rural school children, for poor schools. It can't be that it's only the private schools that has all the sporting equipment. None of the black people sitting here, or the colored people, or the Indian people for that matter, had pole vaulting at his school. None of you. But pole vaulting is an Olympic sport. There's a new Olympic sport called wall climbing. I see the private schools now have wall climbing. Our children in the less fortunate schools don't have that. it's my job as the Minister of Sport not to complain, but to make sure, I make sure that what is in the private schools, as in the schools of our children, that is not so privileged. And we should not bemoan the fact that the private schools have it. We must learn from them. And we must emulate what they are doing